Hello, this is Dread, and in today's video topic, we are going to be doing the Road to 1.0 series. This episode is going to be on Fizz Wolf Beastmaster. So, a lot of people are asking me, hey, Dread, how do you level stuff like Blitz Wolves, or how do you level Squirrels? Well, I found that you can actually play Wolves all the way from like level 20 ish to the end game. And that is thanks to all of the more damage modifiers inside Wolves and how much synergy it has with the rest of Beastmaster. And it also has insane synergy with Swipe and Spirit Wolves, meaning that you can take all of this and play a normal wolf build all the way from level like 20ish to like the end game, and then swap over into one of the other wolf builds whenever you're ready. Now, if you haven't already, I would heavily suggest leaving a like on the video and subscribing to the channel, as that's the best way of supporting me currently. And you can also join the Twitch stream down below if you want to see me work on stuff like this live, or you want to ask me some questions about last Epoch or need some build help. Now, with all that being said, let's get into the build, shall we? So this is going to be Fizz Crit Wolves Beastmaster. So we are building around a very large amount of physical flat damage for our wolves. So we have it on our tree, we have it on our weapons, and we have a decent amount of fizz everywhere else. And that means that we can stack as much fizz flat as possible for our wolves, and then scale that even further with armor shred stacks, like from aspect of the shark stacking. And we also, of course, we can just do way more hits than normal, utilizing something like swipe and double attack speed scaling, where not only our wolves are attacking enemies very fast, our swipe actually hits very fast, which then triggers extra hits from our wolves. All of this combined means that we can clear pretty quickly as we war cry enemies into our AoE, then we swipe them, and then Spirit Wolves triggers, and then it overlaps multiple times and pierces through enemies, and that's pretty much it for clear. So it turns your build into kind of like a pseudo like playstyle where you're in melee range with your minions. This is a very active playstyle for minions. This is not your stereotypical playstyle where you simply relax and let the minions do the job for you. You definitely want to be using swipe here or there, not only to build up a bunch of health regeneration from aspect of the panther, which keeps you alive. Also, you get aspect of the boar as well, and it means you get even more spirit wolves, and you want that for clear, as it makes your clear much better. This is one of those minion builds that actually doesn't really feel like a minion build per se. You're just simply using the wolves as kind of like a vehicle for your damage, and you just move them around to do said damage, right? Now, with all that being said, we're going to go in planner and talk about the transitions of the build. Like I said, I played from like level 1 to 20 with like totems, and then I swapped to wolves as soon as I got to the node that allows you to summon wolves up to your companion limit, right? That was about when I swapped into wolves. And then I did a bunch of transitionary stuff from level 20 all the way to like level 80, where the build got better and better and better as I started investing more and more and more into it. Now, I did this from a fresh level 1 all the way to level 80 with a new Steam account with the family share enabled, meaning that I could play essentially a fresh start scenario where there was nothing on my Steam account, meaning that I could just level a new character like as if it was a season start, so we can have that authenticity. So, with all that being said, let's go in planner and talk about the build some more, shall we? All right, so here we are in planner with the character. So I took a bunch of snapshots of my character as I was leveling. This one first, the first one is my level 1 to 21 experience with Thorn totems, right? Then we swapped over to wolves once we hit a specific node, right? Then we got all the way to level 38 when our fourth skill slot unlocked, and we also, of course, got to the Monolith of Fate after through the campaign. Then level 50 is when our fifth skills like unlocked, and then level 80 is what we finish out the build with. After this, what I would heavily suggest you do is check out the video in the description, the Lightning Wolves Beastmaster build, as that is what I would transition this build into. Now, you could continue with melee physical wolves, but sadly, due to just the way that the game is balanced right now, Lightning Wolves will end up doing much better damage in the end game. So that is what you want to be moving towards, is Howl of the West Wind Beastmaster. So let's talk about the build more in detail. So for here, we were just playing your stereotypical Thorn Totem build. So we took Thorn Totem, right? And we leveled it all the way to get to Titan's Bane first. This makes it so that when you have two totems, you can deal a very large amount of damage with Titan's Bane, because that cast speed makes it so that your totems are actually usable for single target. Then we grab something like Spriggan's Wrath to get an extra pierce to make our clear a bit better. Then we grab Forested Expanse so we can have a max of 3 totems, which gives us like a 50% more damage multiplier. Then we grab 1 point into Ancient Power for the 18% more damage. Then 1 point into On Astral Winds for even more 18% more damage. And all of that combined will carry you all the way until you get everything ready. Another thing that we utilize is we're going to be playing Swipe here, and we're going to be focusing on Avatar Stone. Is as we put the totems down and let them kill enemies for us, we're also going to be getting a bunch of spell flat for our totems. So spell totems, these spell totems, they start with like 20 flat. So attacking a bunch of swipe ends up making your totems do significantly more damage. And then summon wolves here. So we're going to spec this as our third slot, and then we're going to respec as soon as we hit safety in numbers, which means we can summon wolves up to our companion limit, which makes the build viable for early on. By the time this happens, you should be a Beastmaster, and you should have an extra +1 companion, which means you'll have 3 companions total, right? And that's when I take this character, right? And then I respec it into this character. So this character, we swapped out our weapon for a melee attack speed weapon with like minion damage percent, right? That's the first thing we did. The second thing is we respec into Warcry, into eventually being Apprehend, so that we can pull enemies in, and then eventually building into like Berserk and Brutality and stuff. And then our swipe here, we mainly want to be focusing on Wild Calling. We respec it completely and then grab Wild Calling, which makes it so that we hit with Spirit Wolves whenever we attack, right? For our wolves, so we get like as many Spirit Wolves as we have wolves, which is really strong, right? That's like our main damage dealing source. Then of course we have Summon Wolf here, which is the same exact setup for Summon Wolf, right? And the passives will also be here as well, and so will all the gear that I had at the time. This will give you a good idea of what my character looked like at this time, right? Then we go all the way to the end game with this setup, where we eventually spec into Frenzy Totem to refresh our companion ability, making it so we have 100% uptime on Howl. And then we also eventually grab Lead the Pack as well. Our Summon Wolves, we just grab some more damage, some crit chance, right? Then for our swipe here, we mainly grab the rest of Wild Calling. Then we focus rest of our points into Sabertooth's Endurance to give us a lot of health regen. This makes us much tankier early on. And if we get one flat roll of health regen, this like pushes our health regen to the moon and makes us feel much tankier. Then for Warcry, mainly Apprehend, like I said. Then we grab the Fury Strikes eventually, because the faster we attack, the more times we proc Wild Calling, right? And the more times our wolves can deal damage. And then for gear, all we care about is like minion health, some attack speed, minion damage percent, uh, and then maybe like a flat health regen roll somewhere to make our health regen percentage work really well on our health regen, right? And then that's pretty much it for this version. Now at level 50, we get access to our 5th skill, which is Maelstrom. Mainly Maelstrom, we care about getting the frenzy and the haste right, and the mana efficiency. And then eventually we're going to be grabbing Whirlpool to allow us to cast Maelstrom for us, even though it's not on our bar, meaning that we can get that haste and frenzy, and that will make us feel much zoomier, as we don't really have a good movement skill as a Beastmaster. Rest of swipe here, eventually grab Duality in Nature, so we can spend our mana on our Wolf Howl on top of utilizing Frenzy Totem, right? Our wolves here, we just grabbed even more damage, right? Started grabbing Howl of Might and stuff like that. Then for Frenzy Totem, we focused into Lead the Pack, and then eventually 5 points into Grounded for the minus 50% mana cost, helps us save on mana. Then, like I said, Maelstrom, this is the way it's set up. And then we eventually move into a dual wield setup, where we utilize weapons like this with attack speed on them, and of course minion melee percent damage on the suffixes, right? And the rest of our gear is like essentially the same. Then for the last one here, at level 80, we swap into dual wielding Dragonbone axes. These should be pretty plentiful. They'll give you a bunch of flat melee minion physical damage, right? That's like a lot of flat there. Then of course we get the attack speed, right? Then the minion melee percent damage, and then it's like HP, maybe an HP regen roll here or there, right? Like on our boots here, right? And all of that combined leads to our build actually doing a lot of damage in game and being very tanky in it. As you can tell, level 20 skills. Then we look in the passives here. These are the rest of the passives, right? And you can just follow along this planner, this progression, and essentially just have these open, be like, hey, I reached level 21. What do I do now? Well, I swap into summon wolves, then I push all the way to 38. I follow this planner, and then after that, I follow this planner. And hopefully with that progression, this should have you have a much better time than you normally would with one of my build guides. Now, of course, uh I would heavily suggest as well, after getting to this point, either respec into a different Beastmaster build, whatever build that you're going to be playing, start grinding for it, or you could play the Lightning Wolves Beastmaster, which is the evolution of this build, or you can farm for Herald of the Scurry with this version of this build, or swap into Lightning Wolves, right, and then farm for Herald of the Scurry. Either way, you can do any of that, and then, like, after this, like, the world is your oyster. Now, with all that being said, this has been Dread. I'll have to go do something else. Bye.